Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. This is going to be the first official video in my Dawson Sentai 45 series, which I announced a little while ago. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their great ideas and suggestions, and you can keep putting those in future videos, and I'm making note of all of them. I don't know if I'll get to all of them this year during the 45 series, but I'm making note of all the ones that I like. There's some that I really like that I'm just not sure I'll be able to do this year, like regards to watching certain older seasons, because I just haven't seen them yet. So there's ones I'll have to do more work on, but again, I very much appreciate it. But one of the ones suggested was someone saying that wanted me to tell my personal story with Sentai, and I thought that was a good place to start, just talking about how I got into Sentai and my journey. So it began when I was a wee lad, born at, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna start from when I was born, because I didn't even know what Sentai was. So, like most people, I started out with Power Rangers, you know, and at some point, I don't know when, because there's this vague bubble of when I became aware of things. Like, I can't pinpoint to you the exact day I discovered it was a Japanese show or discovered Super Sentai, but it was somewhere in the post-Zordon era, I just sort of realized it was based on a Japanese show and found, you know, pictures of the Sentai that happened before Zyuranger and all that stuff, and I just kind of became vaguely aware of it. I knew it was based off of that, and I knew they did teams before that, but you know, the internet wasn't as prevalent then, and I guess I just wasn't as interested to find out more information. And then it was somewhere around the Ninja Storm Dino Thunder era that I became more concretely aware of this is Super Sentai, this is more their traditions, this is how it works, this is where you can find scans, information on the toys, and I kind of kept up with that. You know, kept up with when we got new pictures of stuff. Oh my god, I can't remember the site. Like, was it Ranger Central or something that used to put up like the Sentai info, and you'd have like the pictures of the mecha and like the little profile shot of the Rangers, and that's a lot of the times the site I visited to see like sneak peeks of the 6 Rangers. And like, I remember looking at Wolzord and thinking he was going to be a Purple Ranger and stuff like that at one point. And so basically like the early days sites of information, and I sort of kept up with it. But I didn't start watching it until Geki Ranger, and I'm going to put up the image if I can find it. I'm sure I can at some point, but this is the first image I saw of Geki Ranger on one of the sites when talking about the new Sentai debuting, and I decided, since I've been kind of into checking out the information and I had found a resource to watch it, that it was time to try to start, and starting with a brand new series seemed like a good thing to do. So I started watching pretty much from the beginning with Geki Ranger, and that's also when I started collecting from the beginning. There's some other stuff I got, which I'll talk about in a second, that was not part of the new series, but that's when I started watching live, and I started finding HLJ, and I started collecting all of the Geki Ranger stuff. And that's kind of like where it sets in stone. From Geki Ranger on, I started watching Sentai yearly as it came out, and collecting the toys yearly as they came out, with exceptions like, you know, during ToQger and Ninja and Goseiger, where I took little breaks. But around that time, you know, in addition to watching it live, that was a very early days time, so there wasn't as many resources or completed sub-series to watch. And there certainly wasn't those type of DVDs. So I just kind of had to find what I could. There were some series completed, some of them only had small batches, but regardless of that, I just kind of sampled around, and I watched like a handful of Zyuranger, a handful of Mega Ranger, a handful of Hurricaneger, a handful of Bokenger, some of which literally that was all that was available. Like, I think at the time, I watched all the Mega Ranger that was available subbed. So I just kind of sampled around, and it was really exciting because, you know, just finally getting into it after all this time of just kind of window shopping, you suddenly have all these worlds to explore, and it was really exciting. And since there's not really a continuity or anything, you can dive into them in any order, which is very helpful, especially since they weren't available in order. I think I eventually did settle on, though, Hurricaneger was the first series that I binge-watched completed as Geki Ranger was airing, because I found all of it on Dailymotion with HK subs, which is not the best way to watch it, but it was the first one I watched, and then I think it was like Magiranger and Bokenger after that. And then as I slowly started to make my way through, there was more and more available, and then of course we have the DVDs and stuff, but it was kind of more of a scarce time. Same thing with collectibles. You know, there was resources, but there's not as many as there are now. And I remember some of the first Sentai things I got outside of starting to collect Geki Ranger was the Wolkaiser Mecha was one of the first things I got, which was why one of my favorites in addition to liking the design. And I also got the Black Ultimate Edition Ultimate Daiboken from the Black and Gold Ultimate Edition Ultimate Daiboken from Yahoo Japan Auctions. I don't remember if at the time there was middlemen around, but you know, there wasn't Tokulectables and there wasn't as many middlemen to get you like exclusives or things from other sites, and so I found this auction that basically acted like a middleman that got me that. And I remember that was one of my first exciting Sentai purchases, because like that was back when I was in the stage of like, where do you buy this, where do you watch this, and I kind of just had to scour around, which is why I'm such a jaded old POS about it when people ask me like, oh, where'd you find it? I'm like, back in my day, I had to find it myself. But it was kind of scarce, you know, and those are some of the first things I found. And another story I specifically remember from when I first got into Sentai was I found an anime shop here that does not exist anymore, which obviously primarily had anime, but as always when I find an anime store, I'm always hoping they have some tokusatsu related things, and they had a very small amount of them, and I found a couple cool things. I don't know where the DVDs, if they were bootlegs or if they were like Hong Kong ones, but I found a couple of Sentai movies. I think it was the Deca Ranger versus movie for Magi Ranger, and then the Deca Ranger movie itself. And then I found this, which I still really like, which is this Magi Ranger box set. Again, I don't know where it comes from. I never bothered to research it. I don't know if it's a bootleg or if it's from Hong Kong or something. When you open it up, like the things that hold the discs are kind of flimsy, but this was just such a cool find, and it was only like 10 bucks, so even if it was a bootleg, just being able to find that when I first got into Sentai, and was how I was able to watch early Magi Ranger, was super exciting. And like I said, I really like the box art, and then like inside you can see it's got cool discs and like art on the inside. Like they kind of fall apart, so I'm trying to be careful here, but even if this is some sort of cheap bootleg, this was super exciting to find, and it's kind of one of my favorite little pieces of my early Sentai collection. And they also had a couple of vinyls, random vinyls from Go Ranger, which was, I think, green and red, that I picked up because it was just super exciting to find something Sentai period, but at the anime shop where they primarily have anime. And then also, for whatever reason, when I really started collecting Sentai, I really got attached to those vinyl figures. You know, I'm sure you've seen me review them, and they've kind of gone down in quality in recent years, but I used to really like them because they were really cheap, but they kind of looked like these mini statues from the show. They looked, some of the figures that looked most like the suits, they were well detailed and used to come in these little boxes, so I made it my mission to backtrack and collect all of them. Exclusives that I don't know about, I think I have all of them, so that's kind of one of my things, but worse in terms of accessibility. But there was something exciting about the time of Pokemon and Digimon and Power Ranger seasons when you couldn't just go on the computer and know every detail and what the cast members like for breakfast. Like information would be scarce, and every time you found a picture or a toy, it would be like you found a treasure. And that's what it was kind of like when I first got into Sentai. When I found a series that was subbed or something like this, or a place to get a Sentai toy that wasn't easily accessible, it was very exciting, especially opening a whole new world. So, sorry if this is a bit of a long video, but that is kind of my Sentai story. I want to hear your guys' Sentai stories in the comments. How did you get into it? What was your first item in your collection? What was your first Sentai? I'll put all that down in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can catch my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.